Hey guys, it's me, Froggy, Esteban. I probably could have started my branding better when I began of just like one name, but here we are. I guess I had no idea that it was gonna lead down this road. All right, so today's multiple topics. Start out by saying nothing groundbreaking, right? No exciting news, no new solves. A couple new areas of interest I've been looking into, and I'll go into why in that part of the video. But yeah, so just if you're tuning in, if your time is limited, you can probably skip this one. There's no new groundbreaking evidence. This is kind of going over some old stuff, going over a couple new areas of interest, a couple topics that I found interesting on the Discord. So if you're not on Discord, that might be something to listen for. But other than that, let's go ahead and get into it. All right. So beginning, this is like, I guess 2 months now we've been going on here. There is a pattern I'm realizing with myself, which is good to, to know yourself, right? It's one of the tenets of leadership, know yourself. And when I have a new idea, I get pretty locked into it. I mean, the bias is real and I'm not able to really fully hear opposing sides, or I'll hear them, but I can't digest them. And I don't know what the word for that is. Is that the definition of confirmation bias, or if that's just unique to me or everybody? I mean, everybody wants to be right. And so for me, I think when I come up with something new, for at least 24, 48 hours, I'm really latched onto it. I'm really attached to it, and I can't fully digest any opposing view or any flaws in the logic. I think the sweet spot for me comes after about a week, 5 to 7 days. I think after that point, I'm able to look at what I came up with objectively, and I'm able to hear opposing arguments and really dig into what I've so-called discovered. And I think that's the hard part. Intentionally, I think that's a challenging aspect of treasure hunting. It's a common trope in famous treasure hunting movies. It's a common trope with famous treasure hunts in real life, is that you hear stories of people that, oh, I found it, I know the box. I mean, early on, and this is not to make fun of them, this is just an example. Early on, like a week or two into the hunt, there was people who, I solved the mystery, I solved the clue, I found the box, but it's not here, so someone must have taken it, right? That was their thought process, was that my solve is so correct that when I got to where my solve told me to, and the box isn't there, my first thought is somebody beat me to it, not I may be wrong, which is it's interesting, and I hope I'm able to remain objective and never get to that point. I mean, fast forward a month or two from now, if I'm boots on the ground and I'm like, chat, I found the box. It was right here. Here's the marking. Somebody must have taken it. Hopefully somebody can remember, or somebody's still watching enough to tag this video and be like, remember what you said? I think those are all examples of, the pitfalls and the dangers of treasure hunting, which I think, it makes it fun and it makes it interesting. I mean, who's going to be the first one to be right? I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm doing the whole video clue analysis thing, is that I don't have the resources, time, or availability to go boots on the ground following up every lead or thread I have, even if I feel strongly about it. And so I get kind of joy, validation, I get happiness, I get I don't know the right word there. I get something out of it if I tell you, and you go there, and even if you report back, hey man, this area looks spot on, or like your area looks really good, that's at least confirmation that my train of thought is kind of going down the right way. All right. And hopefully someone finds it, and if they're like, all I need is just a shout out like, hey, I watched this crazy bald dude on YouTube, and something he said sparked it. I mean, that's good enough for me. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I do it. I mean, there's multiple reasons. I think I've touched on several of them. I mean, this is a creative outlet for me. This was the whole treasure hunt kind of sparked and jump started this interest. I mean, I've always had small creative outlets, doodling, making small little videos, but I haven't really shared them out to the public. And again, that was a little bit nerve-wracking, putting yourself out there, but for the most part, the reception has been really, really positive. So yeah, so that's kind of the introduction to this, about how I'm latched onto a thought, right? And the thought that I've latched onto for the past 2 weeks has been the whole idea of JCB sitting down, or he's a stand-up desk guy. I don't know. In my head, I'm picturing him sitting down. And again, I'm deep in confirmation. I'm deep in, this is still a new thought, so I haven't been able to fully pick it apart yet. But I'm voicing it out. Sometimes when I voice something out and I watch the playback of the video, I realize later, man, I sound ridiculous, or that sounds so crazy. And that'll help me move on to a more sustainable or more logical train of thought. But I'm putting it out there, so here we go. And it's not the first time I've touched on this. I believe JCB, when he sat down, he used his past experiences of where he's been, came up with 5 spots, and or maybe even 6 or 7 spots. Right? This is fresh news. I just read about it like 20 minutes before I jumped on here. Huli, if you know, she's a person in both Discords, Kalazars and Mysterious Writings. Great person, great insight. Huli, and I didn't read far enough back if she was saying something someone else had already brought up. I just saw her name attached to it. That what if part of the incentives and the reason why there's been a lot of debate over are there proxies or are there not proxies is you go to the location, your solve takes you to a box, you find the box, and it leads you to another spot. All right, and so it sounds kind of far-fetched, but hear me out, because the last treasure hunt I was a part of, Project Skydrop, the creator did just that. You followed all the clues, you got to a location, and there was another map that led you to a secondary location where he put some more treasure. All right, and again, it's still, I think the timeline was never really clarified if he only put that treasure once you notified him, or if both treasures were out there the whole time. I can't remember. I'm leaning to believe that was part of the whole incentive thing, that you notify him, I found the first box, and he tells you, all right, here's where the second box is, or here's the clue. So, I mean, we're talking right now, let's just talk about it. What if JCB, if that's something he did, what if he saw that mechanic, and what if, or I don't know if Jason created that mechanic for Project Skydrop. I don't know if that's another existing mechanic in other hunts, but the idea that you go to, there's the main hunt, it leads you to a location, and then in that location, either written or clues, or the creator, once you contact him, he tells you, hey, there's a secondary box, and here's where it's at. I mean, it'd be risky if both boxes were kind of in close proximity to each other, because then someone could find the secondary box and not the first box. So it'd have to be either a whole different spot, which then you're asking a lot for the person to, maybe they spent their last dime getting to the first spot, and now you're saying, oh, now you got to go cross country or go to another state and find the second box. There's a lot of flaws in that. There's a lot of things that require you to stretch your imagination a little bit. But the one thing that it does answer is the proxies, that the boxes themselves, I mean, the sizes look so small, which is interesting that JCB never officially released the dimensions of the box. That could be something to think about. Like, why not? Why hasn't he? What would be the downside? What would be the bad effect? What would be a reason why he wouldn't release the dimensions of the box? I don't know. That's something I think we've talked about a little bit before. I'd like to dive deeper into it at some point, but he has not. All he has is he's given us a couple images, and from those images and from Seth Gould's Instagram, we can kind of approximate a rough size of the box. And so, we have in our heads a rough estimate of the size. And from that rough estimate, it looks like a lot of the items wouldn't fit. Thoreau's page, and a lot of them are fragile. I mean, the jelly glass, the cards that are, in certified mint condition. There's a lot of metal. The elements are really tough out there. If he's expecting it to go 5 to 8 years, metal left outside that long, there's going to be some damage to it. There's been so much talk about how beautiful the box is. Wouldn't he want to preserve how beautiful that box is? Unless he believes that like a natural patina or a natural coating adds value to it. I don't know. These are all pretty interesting questions. But again, having a second box would answer some of these questions of, hey, you find the first box, and the first box itself is a proxy. And inside there's directions to, I mean, there's 6 figures worth of gold or something, and then there's location to the next box. I don't know. And I don't think this train of thought is like the most productive. Like thinking and talking about this is not really going to lead us to a clue. It's just more background noise. And so that's why I only bring it up 2 weeks into it. It's not something I want to follow up with right away, but something to think about. Okay, going back to what I've been trying to get to, but me and my rabbit holes. So JCB sat down, came up with 5 or 6 or 7 locations that he'd been to in the past or that he heard about. He looks at the maps, he looks at the rules, regulations, he looks at wildlife, looks at the dangers of everything, including, possibility of fire that's going on right now. So thoughts and prayers go out to everybody who's affected by it. Hopefully, any of my listeners or watchers, you guys aren't, if you're in the if you're in the southwest or southwest LA, the Palisades, if you're affected by that, hopefully I'm praying that you're okay. But again, I think that's something that natural disasters and fires, certain areas of California are prone historically to fires. I mean, it's just every other year. I mean, there's certain areas that are hit because of, the weather, because of the winds, because of whatever the reason, they just are. And so that's kind of led me to believe that, hey, maybe, that area around Los Angeles, Los Angeles to San Francisco, maybe that area is not in play just because of the danger of the fire, unless he put it in a fire safe box. All right, now we're making the thing that we're looking for a little bit bigger. I don't know. I mean, those are all pretty good questions, but okay, let me try to get to what I'm trying to say. So when you do a treasure hunt, and again, this is from my very, very limited experience and from my very, very limited research. So many of you guys here have been treasure hunting for years, so you can know better than me. But you read through the book, you see what the creator is kind of leading you to do. You find the clues that kind of make sense to you, and you follow the clues. It's kind of a forward or front-facing way to work it. Some people can try to reverse engineer that. If a clue tells you where the end location is, and if you zero on that, maybe you can work backwards. So what I've been trying to do, since I have tentative solves or solutions for most of these boxes already, been trying to go back to the beginning and again see if I can put myself in his shoes about the process. And he's spoken a little bit about this in interviews, about his process, about sitting down, away, not out boots on the ground, but in a home or office environment, plotting out these points, thinking at first 5 boxes wouldn't be as challenging, and then he realizes the challenge once he's actually boots on the ground. What I'm trying to get at is I think there's 5 very unique, and I've said this a few times. I don't know if I've done a whole video dedicated to it, but 5 very unique areas. All right, so fast forward toward the end, there's going to be documentaries. He might be working on a documentary. He might already have footage for it. There's going to be, Netflix shows. There's going to be YouTube documentaries. There's going to be 30-minute Inside Edition episodes on this hunt whenever it comes to a conclusion. However the conclusion is, happy or sad, all right? Thumbs up, thumbs down. But there will be eventually some kind of media product formed about this, all right? It's already gotten to the point where there has to be one. And I'm sure there's already people working on it. And so when that time comes and they talk about the 5 different locations, all right, JCB seems kind of a, separate from the team that he's hired, seems kind of a savvy marketing kind of guy. The way he's approached this, there's been a few mistakes that I disagree with, but I'm not a marketing genius, so what do I know? But even looking back on his past, right, he got his start in like door-to-door sales. That's kind of a charismatic marketing kind of person. You need to be a salesman. Moved into his crypto ventures. All right, that seemed to be pretty successful for him. Then he moved on from there. Started his own publishing company. His music. All right, you need a certain kind of charm and charisma to be a front man, to be a lead singer. And so that's kind of my background on the guy who he is. So I think that when he's already thought about this in my mind, and when it comes time to put together a graphics package or a media package to present to Good Morning America 3 or Inside Edition for, hey, these are some video, this is some shots of the location, here's me placing the treasure, all that other stuff. Yes, I definitely think he documented that stuff's priceless. I've learned that myself. when you go and place a treasure hunt, you're going to want to document when you go and place the gold, place whatever treasure you're placing, you're going to want to document as much as possible because you can't get that moment back. It's not the same as if you try to recreate it. So yes, I believe he has tons of footage there. But again, I think that there's going to be a look he's going for, right? An aesthetic, if you will, to use a new term, or not a new term, but a popular term, I guess. And that's going to be, America. He wants people to get out there, find joy. It's going to be different. How do I say this? Different views, different biomes, different climates. This is not the word I'm looking for. Across America, right? And so, for example, let's look at the 3 areas that we know of, right? So you have the fen box, right? Which is, I should have started with this one last than first, but most people agree it's in the 4 states, right? See if off memory, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and Arizona. In those 4 states, Arizona, New Mexico. No, New Mexico, sorry. Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico. In those 4 states. And it's in the Rockies, right? That whole area, there's a kind of look that's most commonly associated with it. And that's, the peaks of the Rockies, Garden of the Gods, Estes Park. I mean, very, tree wooded. Except for if you go towards the Utah side, right? There are some high deserts in there, all right? Around Salt Lake City. Well, that's not in the 4 states, but around Dinosaur Monument, right? Dinosaur Park, National Park. Browns Hole, Browns Park that I'm kind of looking at right now. So I think that's a little bit of a way to put something out there and get people's mind thinking about the Rockies, and then switch it up a little bit and have a little bit of a Badlands Canyon Drive vibe that you're going for, all right? Because the Appalachian Trail, almost the whole, I'm running through my mind, the whole side of it is very green, very lush, right? I mean, the forest changes. If you're down south, North Carolina, Tennessee, I mean, you have the, what's it called? The subtropic forest right there, very lush, a lot of ferns, all right? You got some moss going. And then you move toward, you get the mid-Atlantic area, then you move towards south, the forest is more temperate, all right? Sorry, more north, not south. A more temperate forest. I mean, you've got a lot of, what is it? Deciduous, coniferous? I don't know. I should stop trying to use big words to sound fancy. But the forest changes, all right? So I think that's your forest, right? So you got, let's just associate Appalachian Trail box with forest, thick forest, right? And if you do it in the mid-Atlantic areas, I mean, you have the rolling hills that's the Blue Ridge, right? Because it goes, Smoky's a small section. Smoky Mountains are a small section of the Blue Ridge. The Blue Ridge is a small section of the Appalachian Trail, or the Appalachian Mountains, which is that goes up and down the whole East Coast. So you have but those mountains aren't really, when West Coast people think of mountains, you think of the Rockies, right? That's very high peaks, or the Sierras. So that's not really as high as peaks. Mount Mitchell is the highest peak east of the Mississippi, and I'm blanking on how high that is. But it's a very unique climate. It's the rolling, right? The rolling hills, very green in the spring and summer, very beautiful in the fall. So that's okay. So all that so picture that in your mind. All right, you've got Appalachian Trail, rolling hills, green forest. You've got the Pokemon box down south, which is the climate. Houston, I don't know. No, I lived in Houston for 5 years. Love the city, great food scene. I mean, there's some national parks. I've driven both north to Dallas and going out west to San Antonio a bunch of times. Made the trip to Galveston a lot of times. That area, if I'm being honest and trying to list of, let's go for 10 most scenic areas of America. I'm not including the drive from Houston to Galveston. If you're from Texas and watching this video, you kind of know what I'm talking about. I mean, the first couple miles, you have all the chemical, the petro plants, is it Dow that's out there? It's a lot, it's very industrial. And then you get out further, it's more scrub as you get closer to Galveston. And so I don't know, no matter how you come into Houston, well, I mean, you can only come in a few different ways because Houston's right there on the water. So you can only come in northeast or kind of directly east as you're going into Houston. So that really limits your view there. And again, if you missed my transition, we're talking about the Pokemon box. So that's why I believe that Houston's kind of out, personally, even though there's a lot of clues there and I see the logic. I think it would be clever for him to put it there. I just personally don't think it's there. So we know that brings us to Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. Looking at that area, there's areas of very green areas there, very lush. I would avoid anything toward the Gulf, anything kind of swampy. I would avoid any of that, again, for safety, for danger. So you're looking more the north. I think if you start leaning more toward North Carolina, where the Pokemon adventure started, and you start going more toward Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, I think that you're starting to get the climate and the biome, the location looks very similar to the Appalachian Trail. So I think he'd want something different. Now it's a question of opinion. I mean, are the Ozarks different enough from the mountains of the Eastern Shore? I'm sorry, the mountains of the East Coast. Well, so you can look at, if you're looking directly along the Buffalo National River, I mean, the bluffs there are very unique. The way it's kind of our East Coast version of a canyon. Maybe, I don't know. I'll probably study more about the geography and how that area was formed. But I think if you're looking along the bluffs of the Buffalo National River, especially the ones near Steel Creek, that's one of the reasons why I like it so much. Bee Bluff, Red Bluff, Goat Bluff, is that's a very unique area. All right. So now we have the bluffs along the Buffalo National River. All right. You have the East Coast Appalachian Trail, whether it's Virginia or Vermont. There's not a lot of big rivers there, which I don't think that there's going to be too many rivers. And then you have the area that I'm looking into, the Gates of Lodore in Colorado. Again, very dry, very canyon. Fun fact, I don't know if I said this on film yet, but the mountains that are there by the Gates of Lodore, Cold Spring Mountain, I think there's a couple other mountains, is the highest, let me see if I can say this right, the highest point in the continental U.S. without snow, which I think is pretty interesting. And it's because of the air and climate and a bunch of other science that I didn't fully study or grasp. But I think that's pretty cool. That's the reason why it can be so epically high and provide these great views, but there's no snow like it'd be in the Rockies. It's because of the climate, the no humidity or no moisture or whatever the reason. It's very unique and provides a very beautiful view. So those are three very different areas. Well, depending on the Ozarks, the East Coast, right? So you've got we're looking the western part of the Rockies, right? The edges of the states. So we're looking for dry. We're looking for canyons, looking for that brown red kind of aesthetic with maybe a deep cut in between. And then we have the bluffs, which again, are we repeating the same kind of imagery here with a river cutting through? Probably. So we have the Ozarks, the bluffs, and if you don't like the Ozarks, I mean, I'll even buy into Mississippi or Alabama if you can find a good state, not a good state, a good thick forested park in either Mississippi or Alabama that fits some other clues. I'll buy into it there. I don't think Louisiana, I don't think Texas, I don't think anything further east. Then you have the rolling hills of the Appalachians, specifically the Blue Ridge, I think. Those rolling hills are very beautiful. And so we have three spots that are very different. All right. Different-ish, okay, depending. Okay, so now we need two more. So we're looking at the other two. California's got to be in play. I mean, everything we've talked about, well, the Fenn box is kind of right in the middle of the country. But the other two are East Coast. So we've got to shift our focus to the West. And why do we have to? Again, we're using his explanation and his reasoning of he wanted everyone to have a shot, wanted the box to be close to everyone, accessible, all those words, all those interviews. That's why we're doing it, all right? So you got to put something on the West Coast. And you can't say West Coast without California. Now, the reason why I struggle with California in the past and future box is because we don't like Ohio because it's too obvious. It's Ohio. I mean, the word's right there. We don't like, so why would we like California when Cali's right in the top? Well, Cali's not California. No locals say Cali. Okay, yeah, I get that. But still, it's written right there in the top. Do we think JCB, after he's looking at the word search, that he wouldn't notice Cali at the top? And then a counter argument to that, because, I mean, no one has a box yet, so every argument I have has a good counter argument, is, well, look at the Appalachian Trail. I mean, there's a trail right there that he gives you, and it's in Vermont. And if you believe it's in Vermont, why wouldn't he do the same thing with the past and future box? Have something right in front of your face that gives you the state. Well, wouldn't that make the state Ohio? Well, you have the state-east state lineup, the state going one way, state going the other way. It's a perfect angle for the border of California and Nevada. I don't know. I go back and forth, and in my head, I'm like, wouldn't it be great if there's another area of the if the clues started leading us to another area of the country, right? The boreal forest up there in Minnesota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. All right, that's another forest. All right, so that's one mark against us, is it's a third forest, but the forest is very different. I mean, it's very mossy, very green, it's lush in another way. Well, there's still ferns, but it's very different, very unique. All right, but would that be too many? I mean, then now we're looking at Colorado, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Pokemon, and then your East Coast, either Vermont or wherever you put your AT trail. Are we too heavy on the East Coast? I mean, I go back and forth saying that most of the country lives on the East Coast. I mean, it's got to be, but I don't know. So that's and I haven't found any clues that really tie me to the area. I found one or two words that link it. That's not enough. I mean, the other solves have dozens of words, dozens of links. So as much as I'm trying to push the boreal forest, trying to push Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, I mean, I really want it to be. I just haven't found anything, full disclosure, full honesty, that really lead me to believe. I mean, there's a couple words, a couple images, nothing really enough to make a video on it. And that's why I haven't done a video yet. But the Redwoods, I mean, we're looking at that area. I mean, you've got for Redwoods for the past and future box. So you have California, which is where the line takes you to, right? So Sapphire, I mean, okay, here's my logic with this. If you've been following the Discord or now there's some great other YouTube channels. I'll take a second to plug them. Dr. I say I'm taking a second to plug them, and then I just blank on the name. Dr. Krypton, Dr. Crypto, Dr. Kryton. I apologize. This is live, and this is not live, but this is all at one take, and I try not to cut any of these out. So my apology. Here's what I'll do. I'll link it in the video. That'll make up for my butchering the name. It's a really cool symbol. I can see the picture in my head. It's a golden horse, very majestic. Anyway, so I'll link him, and I'll link all these in a pinned comment. Is what I'll do. But some other people, JR Wolf or TC Wolf. I should really just cut this whole part out. I'm blanking on all these people's names, and it's all right. So I'm just gonna stop trying to say their names. I'm just gonna say there's a bunch of new. The management and Chaz is the only ones I really remember because I've been working with them recently. But they have some other great videos, and by great videos, I don't mean like I endorse their solves. I mean they seem sincere and that they're trying to do what I'm trying to do and provide analysis, provide possible solutions and locations to help people out. Again, so that's my caveat with that, is that I'm not endorsing their logic or their solves. All I'm saying is they seem sincere. I've worked with some of them. They're trying their own path to help people along their path for the clues. All right, so, well, that was embarrassing, but we're gonna leave it because I'm human and I'm far from perfect. And I'll link those other YouTube videos in the bottom there, because I think if this is something, if you're really deep into this hunt, I think it's good to have more opinions and more thoughts, because something they might say might spark something in you and give you an idea that'll lead you to a possible solution. All right, shake my head. Where am I going back to? Okay, so boreal forest, as much as I really want it to be, I don't think that's going to be a spot. So shifting back to California, okay, that's what I was saying. Going back to very simple for the crossword, for the word search. Let's use correct terminology here. Going back to the word search, I do believe that when it's all said and done and you find the solution, so this is a way to kind of reverse engineer, the words that you found originally in the word search are going to have connections to the place. They're too vague to start out with. I think you have to work the word search, work the cryptogram, find the puzzles, find clues that'll help you narrow it down. But once you've got a section of a state, a region, a county, a park, then those words will come into play, right? So if I look at those words, this area just kind of popped up to me, and I heard some people. It's tough in Discord. It's tough in the internet in general when you put an idea out and people are like, "Hey, yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, I've been looking in the same spot." It kind of makes you to believe, "Oh, I'm onto something," or they could just be messing with you, being like, "Oh yeah, go look over there," right? So I'll just go ahead and say it. So Trinity, Trinity Park, Trinity Monument, Trinity Alps. It's an area north of San Francisco. It's Northern California, and the area I like the way the area looks. I'll go on a small tangent here about the redwoods. I would find it I think it'd be a mistake to include five boxes. I think it'd be a mistake to have five treasures spread across the country and exclude the redwoods. I mean, it's such a unique spot. Growing up on the East Coast and a little bit in Texas, I learned about them, but I'd never really been there. I didn't get a chance to visit the redwoods. This is going to be a shameless redwoods plug. I didn't get a chance to really visit them until I was in my mid to late 20s, and it was just mind blowing. By this point, I'd already seen some pretty cool stuff in the world. I'd already seen, Mount Fuji, Japan. I'd already seen the Grand Canyon. I'd already seen, a lot of the East Coast forest. I'd already been to Utah. But I hadn't been to, the redwoods yet. And so seeing them, I mean, it was just incredible. The size of those trees. And another thing is, that's very unique to the redwoods is, and this is told for me from a guide, and I remember checking it years ago, and hopefully I don't butcher this too much, but something about the root structure with the redwoods and how they're connected. I was in Muir, Muir Woods, right past the Golden Gate Bridge, going north, and then I went to another redwoods park further north, about an hour's drive. Blanking on the name, but something with the root structure of the redwoods are interconnected, and they prevent any other undergrowth from growing. And so it really starts at the bottom, kills out the bottom parts of the food chain, and that prevents the top parts from really from thriving and having food. So at least a couple of sections that I went to, it's very quiet. Other forests across the country, you'll hear, birds, rustling, critters, insects. This was very, very quiet. And it was explained to me that it's because of the root structure of the redwoods, how they're connected, and something about the bark or the needles, or something about the redwoods. I apologize. Someone in the comments can throw it out. Prevent other, the lower parts of the food chain from really thriving and making it a home. And so if you ever get a chance to go to the redwoods at night, it was definitely very eerie. So I got a chance to go to the Amazon. This was a couple years after I went to the redwoods, and the jungle at night was a whole different beast. It was, there were all kinds of sounds, and then they would start and stop all at once at the same time. So yeah, that was a trip. Very exciting. If you get a chance to go to the Amazon, you definitely should. Highly recommend that. But yeah, the redwoods at night was just a trip. Yeah, anyways, so getting sidetracked here. This is not a nature vlog or anything. The redwoods. I really believe that you've got to include the redwoods in Northern California into one of your five. You just have to, all right? But the problem is this is like a fourth forest, all right? So if you have the redwoods, you've got the Appalachian Trail, you've got Pokemon, or a third forest, I guess, depending on where you put the past and the future. That's why I'm where you put the lion's share. That's why I'm glad that my solve for the forest fen box is not forested, and it's not high in Montana or high in the Rockies. I just believe that it kind of fits with five different locations. And then so the last area we have is, the southern desert, Southern California, which now, as much as I was saying earlier, oh, we have to include California, they've got to be invited to the party. Now, wait, California gets 2 locations? That's kind of a lot. I don't know if... it couldn't be, right? Because he says no box will be found in a second state. I'm gonna have to go back and read that up again. The boxes won't be in a state next to each other because there's the same thing about 2 boxes in one state. Because sorry, I'm stuttering. I'm gonna calm down. Take a breath. The other area in California that I really like is Southern California, and southern, way south, close to Mexico, away from the threat of fires. But the Mojave Desert, Joshua Tree, Mojave National Preserve, that whole area out there, I think that it's beautiful. It's kind of open, so it's not like a forest is the most ideal spot to hide something, right? Besides burying it, because it's just so much biomass. There's so much for the eye to get distracted on. So many areas to hide. Uh, the mountains, or if you go above the tree line, it's kind of bare. You'd have to, put something in the rocks. And the desert, I mean, that can be kind of bare too. You'd have to find like rocky outcroppings or thick some scrub to hide it in. So maybe that would leave desert out. But if you leave desert out, that brings us back to the boreal forest or the mid. So here's why I skip over the flyover states, right? The middle of the country, and it's because it's just so. I mean, I've driven across there a couple of times. I mean, you have the massive soy farms that go on forever. You've got the other farms of grain, all kinds of grains and stuff like that, rolling. Topography is kind of flat. There's not really a lot of stuff to hide something, unless you just put a box like in the middle of a prairie and just hope that the high grass would, just cover it, which would be interesting, right? I mean, that'd be definitely a cool spot if you just plopped it down the middle of some tall prairie grass, which leads me to what's it called? Tall Grass Prairie National Preserve. Is that the name of it? And I was looking at there for a little bit. I was like, man, it'd be really cool for this to have my 5 boxes spread out if I had something in the middle of the country. But looking on that park, that monument, that national preserve, they allow bison or buffalo to free range. I think it's bison to free reign. And so I mean, the headlines to me would be terrible. Treasure hunter gored by a bison. And so again, for the danger aspect and the risk aspect alone, I'm kind of counting out that park. There are other parks. They just don't seem to me to offer a lot of areas to hide. Now, if this hunt goes on for a year or two and nothing's found in our normal locations, I might shift my viewpoint a little bit and think maybe he got cute and just put the box in the middle of some rolling prairie. I mean, it fits with America. It's in our national anthem. I mean, you got to have the rolling fields of grain. All right, so we're kind of coming to the end here. I've been talking for about 35 minutes. I need to wrap this up. I don't like to go this long. But I think I've tried to be coherent for most of my ramblings. Again, this video wasn't really anything new. It's kind of, okay, so going back to the Redwoods, did I find anything that led me there? All right, so other than, using some of the words that were found the original way, no secret way, no puzzles, no ciphers, just the words that you find in the word search. You've got Sapphire Lake, you've got, 3, there's a lot of 3s, you've got Trinity, you've got quarry. There's a big mining. The area is known for mining. There is an active quarry still there. Sells a lot of rocks to construction companies around the area. I mean, you've got some good trail names. You've got several peaks around. What else? I mean, Lemon State ties to California. Waterline. I mean, there's all kinds of little streaks and streams and creeks. Wow. In that area. So you can make a lot of the words fit. I mean, 3 peaks, 3 sisters. I mean, you've got a lot of the road numbers match up with 12, 9, 5. Even some of the latitude and longitude, if you look in that area, some of the numbers in the word search fit that area. Not that I believe you'd get a coordinates from the word search. I'm just saying stuff that leads you to that area would fit. But I don't have anything else. Like that's I've been working on it. I'm kind of stuck. I think have too much information from like other people's solves and the Tahoe solve and my solve outside San Jose and Kentucky. So I'm not able to like mentally compartmentalize and start fresh. I have to let it sit for a couple of days, which is what I'm trying to do now. So if you're in that area, I mean, congratulations, another person's thinking about it. If you're not in that area, maybe see if you get any farther than I did. But if you do find something there, that kind of rules out the desert down south, because I don't think he'd put 2 things in one state. So if you have, so if we do pass in the future in the Redwoods, Northern California, you've got Fenn box in Colorado, you've got the Pokemon box down south, maybe Arkansas, I believe. You got the AT over there in Vermont or Virginia. Where do you put the lion's share? All right. I mean, do you put it down in Texas? Do you put it maybe you put it in a rolling field that just left out there? I mean, and the clues are so vague, who would ever find it? Or maybe you put it in the boreal forest, and I really haven't dug into the lion's share that much, so I don't really know the clues that would lead us there. Other than, again, I have a few things that I'm not going to share just yet. yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to look at the map as a big picture. That's kind of what I've been doing the last couple days. Uh, Next few days, I'll try to go back to which box do I want to revisit. Not the Appalachian Trail. I'll try to maybe revisit the Pokebox, or I can't revisit Past and Future. It's just too fresh. There's too much going on, which is why I want to try to start fresh. I mean, the ciphers and the puzzles that are going on now is I think going into genius territory, right? And he said you don't need to be a genius unless that whole thing was tongue in cheek. Yeah, so I want to start fresh with the whole word search, but I need to let my mind rest a little bit. I want to go back to the original words, see what we can fit. I want to go back to the original scramble and see if we can make other things fit. And maybe, I mean, so the thing with the scramble is, and this is a new thing I'm kind of trying to work out. So everyone's trying to make the scramble fit all together. Like it's a long sentence, right? So there are 5 clues, 3, line them up, there are, blah, blah, blah. But what if, similar to when you find words, like the word is just by itself. I mean, the word search, it's not called a sentence search, right? It's a word search. So what if the scramble, it doesn't need to be all together. What if there are 5 clues in this word search? Done. That's it. That's all there is. But we can make 3 in there. I mean, we can make other stuff. I mean, well, okay, what if you just skip that middle part? There are 5 clues in this word search. Remain steady to complete the mission. And what if the middle part is unneeded? Same way that in a word search, a lot of the letters are unneeded. I mean, so you work a word search, you don't find every letter. It's not, if we're working a word search and we find, it's a 20 by 15, and we found 20 words. There's a lot of open space. We're not going, oh, we have to make it fit. What if we shift? That's it, you're done. So what if you find the word search, everything that's left, okay, there's a couple of phrases that are scrambled, but we're trying to make every line means something. We're trying to find a message on every line, and people have found stuff and it works. But is that intentional? Is that red herrings? Is that, I don't know. So that's what kind of where my head's at. What I'm going to try to do in the next couple of days is just work off of there are 5 clues, because I think that's so it looks so intentional. I can't say that it's not yet. And remain steady to complete the mission. That's another one too. Everything in the middle that people argue about, turns, bends, states, line, do not use, whatever. I'm going to skip that from now, because I believe that there's enough clues in here that you can use a few clues to get to a close area. So that's what I'm going to try to work out and see where that takes me. All right. That's it. I talked for a lot. Hopefully I didn't ramble. Hopefully you get something useful out of this video. Yeah. All right. That's enough for today. Bye.